Mic check. Hello and good evening to all of you. Good evening and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs and the Gazette magazine for 11th November 2021. Good evening Amlan. Hello Bhabani. Hi Kriti. Good evening Ashish. Hello Jayashree. Hi Shivam. Welcome to all of you. Today is a special day because it is 11 by 11 and we will be covering quite a few interesting articles today in your daily guide to UPSC current affairs. All right, today the hot selling articles in the market are: first, giving general consent to CBI or not. We will understand what are the issues around general consent to CBI. The second one is Global Resilience Index Initiative. What is this initiative? Why was it launched? The third one relates to plastic waste material because of COVID-19, the increase of these kind of material. Hello Sam, good evening to you. All right, so these are the new snapshots. This day in history we have dedicated to National Education Day. This is the birthday of the first education minister of our country. All right, featured news for the day is on UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Right, this becomes a very important act because this has been used by the government innumerable times in the recent past, and therefore to be able to understand what are the issues with this act, what are the reasons because of which government is using this act, what are the loopholes, we have to understand in details all the perspectives, and that is what we will cover at 6:45 p.m. today evening. Right, so this becomes a very, very important article. Feature news for day is on UAPA. Innumerable opinions on it, but a very important act that the government uses at times. Right, image of the day is on a pink leopard. Terms and concepts. The four terms that we discussed today are democile cranes. Why are they in news? We will understand. The second one is Srinagar, which has been declared as a creative city. The third one is fishing droughts, and the fourth again Srinagar, which has also been declared as a major airport. Right, so there is a criteria for declaring an airport as a major airport, and after that certain jurisdictions also change. We will quickly understand all of them. The three editorials that we have for today are India's COP26 pledges. Are they too little, too ambitious or not? We will understand that here. The second one is on the loopholes in CRPC, and that is the one that delays the justice. Right, so a quick understanding of that. And the third one is the urban deluge, urban floods, and we have initiated this one from Sunset TV. Right, earlier it was known as Rajya Sabha TV. So see, editorials are there from diverse backgrounds. One from Indian Express, then ORF, Observer Research Foundation, and the third one from Sunset TV. Today's case study is of a man from Bhopal who suffered the Bhopal gas tragedy yet came back very well. All right, so now we will begin the discussion for today. All right, good evening Nirbhaya. Hello Jyotsna. Right, my health, Sam, I am good. I am very good. I feel more energetic towards the evening because that's the time when I meet you guys. Right, so thank you for participating, each of you. Right, so let us begin the discussion right now. The first snapshot is on CBI and general consent to CBI. Now this becomes a very, very important article, considering that CBI needs approval from the state governments to be able to carry out investigations in states. Earlier this was not the case in most of the states. See, when CBI carries out, there are two types of organizations. So one is NIA, National Investigation Agency, and the other one is CBI. So both of them carry out investigations, and National Investigation Agency mainly for cases like bombing or attacks, terrorist attacks, and they have a jurisdiction throughout the country. However, CBI needs permission from all the states. Why? Because CBI is under an act. This act is called as the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. Right, so when CBI has to investigate any individual, any officer who is posted in the state government, they will have to seek approval of the state. There are two types of approval that are required. The first approval is called as general consent, and the second one is called as case specific consent. This becomes very important, very much in news. So if the states have given general consent, that means the CBI can investigate that particular officer without seeking a particular permission from the state. And many of the states, 8 number of states, have now withdrawn this consent. Now, this is a cause of concern for CBI, because when they go against an individual to investigate that case, if the state government does not give them approval, they will not be able to proceed in those cases. And in the last few years, 20% of the cases only for which CBI requested the states got approval for investigation by CBI. So this is a cause of concern for CBI, right? Just a few days back, there was another update, and this is where the CBI director, who is an IPS officer, he had said that 65 to 70% is the rate of conviction of CBI cases. 65 to 70%. This is a very good proportion. But this is somewhere caught when states are to be, asked for approval so that investigation could be carried out. So this is the issue. And many of these cases are high stakes cases where there is financial fraud or some political connection issue. So this is it, right? In 2018, there was another important amendment, 2018. Now, through this amendment, the central government needs to provide permission so that CBI can conduct any investigation on a central government officer. So central government, the CBI is an investigative body, right? CBI, and it is different from the government. But if CBI has to seek central government approval before it can carry out investigation against a person, that means it is under the authority of central government. This was an amendment act that was passed in 2018, after which the Supreme Court had also said that CBI is a caged parrot, right? So now states are also trying to make CBI as a caged parrot. There are cases where they are not allowing CBI to investigate. But see, this is also political, people say. 7 of the 8 states which have withdrawn the consent right now, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Kerala, all of these states, they are non-ruling states. They are not BJP states. The one which is at center, these are not those states. So they say that the central government is unfairly targeting the opposition in the state governments, right? So this is the accusation, and that is why they have withdrawn. In case the general consent is not given, CBI asks for case specific consent, right? So do remember these important points, right? This become very, very important when we talk about investigation bodies in the country. There are certain exceptions to this. While CBI investigates the case, it can go ahead and investigate the case if it has found that the officer was caught red-handed while taking bribe. So in that case, no state consent is required. There are other exceptions as well. So one exception is that CBI can register the case in Delhi and then carry out the investigation in the other state. CBI can also register the case in Delhi and request another officer in the local body, in the local police, to carry out the investigation by seeking an approval from the local court. This is another methodology. And then CBI can also investigate older cases. Those times when the consent was there, those cases can always be investigated, right? Cases which have come up only after the consent was withdrawn, those cases will not be taken up. So these are certain limitations. This came up in the newspaper today itself, and also 1.5 weeks back. See, if an article becomes important, it keeps on coming up in the newspaper again and again. And that is the reason that we ensure that we cover those articles sometime or the other very soon, right? It came up in the newspaper today, we have covered it. Snapshot 2 is on Global Resilience Index Initiative. This is an initiative. This is the first time this index has been released by 10 organizations, right? So next year, we will also have countries being rated on this. So when we talk of resilience index, see, we are talking of resilience to climate change because it was released at COP26. So these are the kind of examples you can give in main examination, or if in pre-examination, they can straight away be asked as well, right? Straight away, what is Global Resilience Index Initiative related to, or any smaller fact also related to it. So some important organizations which have formed this, 10 organizations have formed this index, right? They came together, and some of them are CDRI. It has to be this CDRI, Coalition for Disaster Resilience Infrastructure. This is India's initiative, also formed in the year 2019-20, and the main idea is to have disaster resilient infrastructure. See, the name of index itself is Global Resilience Index. Resilient to what? Resilient to climate change, right? So the first organization is who's the one who has formed this is Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Speak it up, speak it up. This organization becomes very important for India, right? And the second one is Coalition for Climate Resilient Investment. Very simple, see. So this is a coalition for the organization infrastructure, and the second one is for investment, right? So there are 10 of them which have formed this. United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction also is a part of it, right? Now, what are they going to do? They're going to quantify the value of building climate resilience. So what is the quantification? That means in terms of dollar, in terms of rupee, how much money will it take to build resilient infrastructure? Resilient infrastructure meaning some kind of infrastructure which is not getting affected because of climate adversities, right? Because of floods, because of extreme cyclones, because of earthquakes, the infrastructure still remains there. What is the cost of creating these kind of infrastructure, and what is the cost if we do nothing? If we do nothing, it will also hamper the infrastructure created, so it will also calculate both these costs. This is the main idea, and they will also map the whole world, and they will put the data around the on internet, so that all of them can share the data, all the countries, and they can create better resilient infrastructure, right? Now, some statistics about it. The year 2020 saw disasters worth $200 billion. $200 billion. Imagine, this is the kind of catastrophe that we are talking of, and it is only going to increase in future times if we do not build climate resilient infrastructure. See, either we build the better infrastructure, and either we invest in the beginning or we invest later on, right, in rehabilitation. The choice is ours, right? So and if we have this kind of funding, we will also align these finances to the targets, right? So eventually it boils down to money only, right? So they will be able to have aggregated risk management and insurance protection as well. All right, this is the second snapshot. Do remember this, right? So we are talking of a new index for resilience. All right. The third snapshot is on plastic waste due to COVID-19. See, just a few days back, we had covered a featured news on plastic waste. Plastic waste is one of the most critical wastes which we are not able to process. Plastic stays in the environment for 1,000 years. In fact, it is being said now that plastic is one of the indicators of Anthropocene era. When there will be a time when humans will no more exist, after thousands of years, plastic will still remain. And this plastic will be an indicator that yes, humans did exist at some point of time. And 2020 year has also depicted, because of COVID, the increased usage of plastic waste. These are the times when not only biomedical plastic waste has increased. Very simple example is gloves, mask, right? The biomedical hazard waste. Not only that, but people themselves are consuming more plastics which are single use, so that the infection disease can be minimized. Single use plastic. So because of this, plastic waste due to COVID has increased humongously, right? Now there are a lot of statistics that we had studied when we had studied the featured news on plastic waste. Few of them are around 80% of the plastic waste, it is flown in the Asian rivers only, Asian rivers itself, right? So Asian countries are the one which do not process the plastic as much. And if you extrapolate this information a little bit, is it not applicable to bio waste plastics as well? Yes, it is. It is also going to spread infection in the atmosphere, right? So it results later on in garbage patches. And we have also studied the Great Pacific patch, right? Garbage patch, right? So these are the side effects of plastic pollution, and also will be the side effects for the biomedical plastic pollution, right? Now, there's been an increase in single-use plastic. Despite the fact that the governments have tried to reduce single use, this has increased during the times of COVID, right? Especially biomedical plastic waste. So face masks, gloves, face shields, all of them single use, throw it. So this is one. Then the medical waste which has to be incinerated. Incinerated means burned without the presence of air. Now that has also increased, and especially in Asian countries. Water bodies have started to accumulate it more. In the featured news discussed last week, I had explained to you all the rivers, right? Yangtze, Yellow River, rivers in Malaysia, India and Egypt. All these rivers, the ones which are carrying most of the plastic waste, and it very well says Asian rivers account for around 73% of discharge of plastic. This is United Nations speaking. United Nations Environment Program. It is there on the website, right? Then there are plastic accumulation zones. This is the kind of thing that we are talking of, right? This is what the report speaks of. In fact, by the year 2050, the way we are proceeding, we will have more plastic waste as compared to the weight of humans. The collective waste of the plastic will be far more than the human weight. This is the way we are proceeding in these times, right? So this is where you should start talking about extended producer responsibility as a matter of solution to these problems. You can start speaking about stoppage of usage of single-use plastic. You can talk about putting some charges on consuming plastic, right? So 2 to 3 rupees charge on every plastic, right? So these are some examples you can be using. We had studied all these in details in the featured news in the last week. Just search plastic waste Edukemy on YouTube, you will find the featured news there. All right, so the alternate solutions are having better management for it, right? Using environment friendly material. So one environment friendly material is bioplastic. What is a bioplastic? Can anybody say what is a bioplastic? Have you heard about bioplastics, friends? Good evening, Funda. Good evening. Bioplastics are those kind of material which are using biodegradable material. What is that? Very simple is they use fabric, they might use waste material, food waste material, and they will try to create that kind of plastic which can be degraded also in respect of time, right? Now, a very beautiful image here talks about what was the scenario of usage of plastic before COVID and then COVID and now. See, before COVID, we were trying to mechanically recycle some amount of plastic. We were using incineration, that means burning the plastic so that it can be removed from the earth. And third was landfill, and fourth was mismanagement of plastic, right? And during the times of COVID, incineration has increased. Landfilling has also increased. Why? Because these kind of infectious diseases, they can prevail if the landfill is not done. So landfilling at deeper depths, landfilling has increased, and incineration, burning of these plastic waste has increased, right? What is required is to increase the use of bioplastics, right? So this is what is required. We have covered this article in totality. Okay. All right. Easily degradable. Absolutely correct. Now, if you like this initiative, just put thumbs, like button, thumbs up button, and we shall continue right now. All right. This day in history we have dedicated to Mr. Maulana Abul Kalam, and he was the first education minister of India. It was his birthday, 11th November 1888 is the day he was born, and he is responsible for very, very good acts. Not only being the first education minister, he also established under him, it was the UGC was established, the first IIT was established, and not only that, we have Jamia Millia Islamia also being established under him, right, during his times. So we had just a few days back covered Jamia Millia Islamia also in either, I think, This Day in History or Image, and it has been 100 years since its formation. Now mark my words, UPSC has been asking these questions. 50 years of Bangladesh independence, and they asked the question on Bangladesh this time itself, right? 30 years of LPG, and they asked the question on LPG. Then it was 100 years of our national flag, and they asked the question on that. So similarly, there were one more question related to it that relates to 80 years of 1942 Quit India movement. They had a question on this. So kindly note this part. 100 years of formation of Jamia Millia Islamia University, and Jamia stands for university, Millia for congregation of people, so national congregation is an example of it, and Islamia, so this is Jamia Millia Islamia, right? 100 years of its formation, and this day in history dedicated to Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the first education minister of our country. Okay, moving ahead, featured news for the day is on UAPA, notorious act, popular or unpopular. We will understand what are the reasons for its popularity or impopularity, and what are the issues involved in this particular act, how is the government using it, what are the contentions, and what is the response of judiciary in these situations, right? So this becomes an important act for paper 2 governance paper, polity paper. Image of the day is dedicated to pink leopard. See, this is not an albino leopard. Leopards also have this markings on their body, these spots, so that they are able to camouflage in the environment they are in, right? Now, this pink leopard was spotted at Ranakpur Hills in Rajasthan, and this is not albino. Albino is like, the off color, the white color of the particular animal, albino tiger, albino leopard, and that is because of absence of a particular pigment which colors the particular animal, right? Albino, having this kind of loss of this kind of gene can lead to a person, human being also, having a discolored body, right? So this is not an albino leopard, but it was found here, and these kind of leopard have also been found in Africa previously. All right, pink leopard, just for your understanding sake. All right, moving to the terms. Have you heard of demo style cranes? Now these cranes have been found dead in Jodhpur. right? Jodhpur in Rajasthan, and the reason for their death is Newcastle disease. Now, this is a contagious disease, a disease that is caused because of some issues in the respiratory tract, and these cranes are found to exist in plain areas, those areas where there is availability of space and land. Now, important to understand is a question that I'm going to ask. This is a bird from Rajasthan. Tell me the state bird for Rajasthan. That becomes important. The state bird for Rajasthan. What is that bird? One hint. This is a critically endangered species. Sam says recently Justice Nariman urged Supreme Court to strike down some UAPA provisions. Yes, there has been a request to strike down certain provisions of UAPA. We will talk about this in details in the featured news section today itself, right? So the bird which is critically endangered and the state bird of Rajasthan is Great Indian Bustard. This bird becomes very important because it is a heavy bird and it does not take much flight. Great Indian Bustard is the state bird of Rajasthan, present only in few hundreds, and the main reason for the decreased population of Great Indian Bustard is that because of the presence of electric lines, they have died. This is one. There's a loss of habitat. They're also poached. These are the few reasons, right? And they are also the state bird of Rajasthan. Now, we were discussing demorsal cranes because they were dead because of certain kind of disease. All right. Moving ahead. Now, Srinagar has been declared as a creative city by United Nations, UNESCO in specific. So, UNESCO had initiated a specific organization, UNESCO Creative Cities Network, right? And these creative cities will be in certain regiments. What are the regiments? Either they will be creative in folk art or media or film, literature, design, gastronomy or media arts. So, I'll be able to understand if a city is popular in folk art. Right, very good. Media, very good. Film, very good. Literature, very good. But what is gastronomy? What is gastronomy? Anybody? Yes, gastronomy relates to food, gastro, intestine, stomach. So those cities which are popular for good eateries, right, in historic good eateries, those are the ones that are declared as creative cities in gastronomy. Now, Srinagar has been declared as a creative city. And India has had quite a few cities in this list already, right? So Jaipur is popular for craft and folk arts, and Varanasi and Chennai for music, right? And now we have Srinagar, which has been declared a creative city. All right. So this is the update article here. All right. Moving ahead to, yes, Kriti and Amlan, correct. It's for food. All right, Nikhil, absolutely correct. Great Indian Bustard. Good. All right, fishing draughts. It was popular. It was in news because of these kind of draughts happening in Andhra Pradesh, right? Now, yes, Hyderabad as well has been declared, right? I remember something like that. Yes, absolutely. So, fishing draughts have been declared in Andhra Pradesh. Now, people who used to get involved into these animal husbandry and fishing kind of activities, they are exposed to something called as fishing draughts. It is happening due to multiple factors, natural factors and anthropogenic factors both. Natural factors, for example, global warming of the ocean, right? Reduction in the amount of water present in water bodies. Natural factors leading to deoxygenation or acidification of the water. These are certain natural factors. Human factors are overfishing, right? Fishing at the time when there is spawning season, time when the fishes are breeding. That is the time if we start to fish, the fishes will not grow to their proper size. And there will be a time when there will be no fishes left to fish. And that is why people will have to migrate from one area to another so that they are able to carry out their livelihood. So this fishing drought was a news, and this is a good term for you to use while you talk about crisis in agriculture, animal husbandry and fishing, right? So this was in news lately. Srinagar again has been declared as a major airport. Srinagar has been declared as a major airport. Now, there is a difference between major airport and minor airport. Minor airports are the one which are whose economic and other powers are controlled through Airport Authority of India, and major airports are the one who are controlled by Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, AERA, right? So when airport parking charges, landing charges, right, charges for other hangar spaces, so all these charges are handled by Airport Economic Regulatory Authority if the airport has been declared as a major airport. In case the passenger traffic is 35 lakh or more per annum, right? So certain of the major airports are Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Chennai, Kolkata, and Srinagar has been added as a major airport. In case it is a minor airport, all these economic decisions are taken by Airport Authority of India. Okay, moving ahead. The first editorial is on COP pledges. Are they ambiguous or ambitious? See, all I would like you to have with yourself is the Panchamrit, right? The 5 pledges that the Prime Minister has taken for India, and along with the condition that he has attached, right? That is finances. India needs finances, and then India will be able to achieve those Panchamrit goals. So one goal, the first goal that should be in your mouth is 2070 net zero. The second goal that should come out of your mouth should be around 50%. What is 50% about? And what is 40% about? 50% of renewable capacity generation by 2030. 40% of emission intensity reduction at the level of 2005 by the year 2030. In case you don't understand emission intensity, do point out. I will just explain to you what it is. So these are the 3 important goals, and then also some reduction in carbon emission reduction. So these are some important goals, and if you are able to understand these goals, see, the ORF article has only said that some of these declarations are little ambiguous. The first ambiguity itself is about funding. If India does not receive funding, India said that we will not be able to achieve this. Moving ahead, if India has to go ahead and achieve 50% of renewable capacity generation, that means India will have to reduce funding in conventional sectors that India is not doing as of now. If India wants to grow in its economy, India will have to use conventional fuel as well. So these are the certain kind of ambiguity that the article has spoken about. The article also says that it was a natural compulsion, a geopolitical compulsion for India to declare 2070 as net zero, right? And these goals are ambitious. These are ambitious goals for our country. This is what the editorial talks about. See, the last line says, difficult, decarbonizing will also become difficult somewhat as manufacturing is energy intensive and carbon intensive, right? All right. Moving ahead, how the loopholes in civil procedure code delay, right? So this article points out at some cases where the case was stretched more than its time in the courts while it was being heard in the courts, just because some people could twist the law. So natural justice, the principle of natural justice in Indian system says that a person will not be treated as guilty unless and otherwise proved, right? So they will not be treated as guilty unless and otherwise proved. And some people indulge in delaying these kind of justice system, inordinate delays, and it does not result in giving the proper justice, right? So there are 2 important phrases that were used in this editorial. The first one said, justice hurried is justice buried, right? So justice hurried is justice buried primarily means that if you try to hasten the justice process, if you do not interrogate the parties, if you do not conduct proper investigation, the justice will get buried. All right, this is one perspective. But contrary to this, if justice is delayed, justice can also be denied, right? It can be denied. So the second part is what the editorial has maintained as the prime focus. It says that many people use their power to deny the justice by delaying the whole procedure, right? And therefore it gives some suggestions that probably not only should we talk of increasing the number of judges, not only should we talk of having some kind of removal of vacancies, filling up the vacancies, but we should also have some time-bound manner in which the whole court proceedings should get completed, right? All right. Okay. Sam says she would like to understand what emission intensity is about. Emission intensity. See, emission intensity is not about net emissions. India said earlier that India will reduce emission intensity 33 to 35%. It had said in Paris Climate Agreement 33 to 35% of 2005 levels by the year 2030. See, India, this was a declaration, 33 to 35% emission intensity reduction of 2005 levels by the year 2030. It only means to say, now this is a very conceptual term and it can be asked in the pre-exam. It does not mean that India will reduce the net emissions that were happening in 2005 by 33-35%. It does not mean to say that. Suppose there were 100 units of emissions in 2005. It does not mean to say that by 2030 it will reduce it by 33 and 35%, reducing it to around 65 units of emission by 2030. No, it does not say that. It means to say that the proportion of emission happening per unit GDP, emission per unit GDP, that this of whatever value it was in 2005, it will reduce 33 to 35% in the year 2030 of 2005 levels. That means the GDP will also increase with time, emissions will increase, but proportionally the emissions will decrease as compared to the GDP, proportionally. Why? Because then emissions will be less and economy will be more efficient. It will be more efficient and it will be carbon, it will be emitting less carbon per unit GDP. This is what it means, right? So emissions will definitely increase, but it will emit lesser carbon per unit GDP. This is what it means, okay? The third editorial for today is from urban deluge, urban floods, right? All right. Yeah, Bhabani, absolutely correct. It means the emission compared to GDP percentage, right? So per unit GDP. All right. The third editorial is from, it's not an editorial, it's an article. It was a TV visual for 25 minutes from Sunset TV, a very good one. You must have seen somewhere or the other or heard that Chennai is in floods and disastrous floods. Now, this article speaks that these floods are not uncommon in urban areas, right? Last year they happened in Hyderabad, they happen incessantly in Mumbai. These urban floods, they happen in Delhi, they have happened in Ahmedabad, they have happened in Guwahati, they have happened in numerous other cities, and not to forget what happened in Srinagar, right, 6 years back. So it says that since this is a repeated phenomena, there is some underlying cause of it, right? So heavy rains is one cause, yes, we agree, but more than that, if it is happening in urban areas, they are differentiated from rural areas. So what is the difference here? The difference is expanding population in urban areas. Not only that, along with that, the spatial management of expanding population, spatial planning is not adequate. In fact, the article itself mentions that more than 70% of the urban areas, they have never been planned. There has been no planning for urban areas in our country. This is what Niti Aayog also says. This is what this particular article mentions. Now, it says that not only these factors, there are other factors also. Other factors like if we have changed the land usage, for example, see, suppose this was a river body. Now, this river will have lesser flow in the times of, suppose this was the river body, it will have lesser flow during the times of summer, right? And people might think that although this is a floodplain, people might think that river is not flowing here, so let us start building our homes. They start encroaching spaces and they build their homes or some or the other, land use. They might start cultivating here. But as and when it starts to rain incessantly in some year or the other, it will flood all these spaces. So people have not respected the natural landscape, right? This has caused most floods. Not only that, when they have concretized the space, this has led to more of runoff, right? More of runoff and settling of water at certain spaces. Not only that, we also have this blockage of natural water flow, right? Blockage of natural water path, creating structures. These have blocked the water path, right? Deforestation is another reason. If we had had trees, the water would have percolated below, but no trees, that means it will get runoff and it will get settled at low-lying areas. This is exactly what is happening in Chennai and Mumbai. It will keep happening till the time we do not have solutions to these places, right? So when it comes to what are the problems, the flood causes loss of life, loss of property. It also causes infections, right? Increase in diseases during these times. What is the solution? The experts say there are two ways in which it can be handled. One is mitigation of these kind of urban floods, which are anthropocentric, and the other one is management of these kind of floods, so being more resilient to it. So the first one is mitigating these floods. So what do we need is a geospatial map of floods, right? Flood prone areas. So GIS, geographical information based systems, the satellite will be able to map what is the flood proneness of a particular region, what is the particular flood safety plan of that particular place. they will be able to map the master plan according to these kind of flood risks. Not only that, they will have to have forecasting systems for people, right? So these are some of the ways, and reservoir management is another one. See what happens in Kerala when there is increased amount of water in certain rivers, the floodgates are opened and they will flood the particular area which is downstream. This has happened very much in and around Idukki reservoir, right, in Kerala. So reservoir management becomes an important issue. See, reservoir must be used not only for irrigation, it should also be used for flood management. It has primarily been used for irrigation. This is what the editorial, this particular article points out. Now, in case we cannot handle this issue, in case the flood disaster is impending, hona hi hai, to kya karenge? What should we do in that case? In that case, NDRF says, National Disaster Response Force says that you start keeping your items at high ground, essential medicine, essential kits, phones, or some money, important documents at high grounds, and also start following instructions of NDRF or IMD very seriously. These are the important things that one can do in these kind of floods. What happens is, one of the important impact is food is not available. This is one. Electricity also goes away, and after that connectivity between people, that also gets lost. So this is the impact at urban areas. It can be avoided to a certain extent. This is what the editorial points out. All right. Okay. Moving ahead to the man of substance, Abdul Zafar. He is the man from Bhopal, and what he has done is that he has survived the tragedy of Bhopal gas, and he has also helped other people recuperate. He has helped them to gain some kind of vocational training and employment and serve themselves and create some livelihood for themselves. And for the same reason, he has also been conferred with the Padma Shri Award in 2021. Imagine, this has been well over 30 years, right? So well over, in fact, 35 years, and people are still facing the tragedy and the impact of the tragedy of Bhopal gas, right? Right. So this is it. There's a small update, a very important update for all of you. See, there are times when mistakes happen. Mistakes happen from all the newspapers, and mistakes happen at global level. There is confusion at times. 2 days back, day before yesterday, we had studied about COP, Action Agenda on Sustainable Agriculture, right? Actionable Agenda on Sustainable Agriculture. And there were a lot of news articles which were published saying that India has become a part of it. India has become a part of it. India has clarified later in the same newspapers that India is not a part of Actionable Agenda or Sustainable Agriculture. So this is the update. In case you have written down, everything else about this Actionable Agenda is correct, apart from the fact that India is a party to it, right? So this is important here, and you can put this update, right, cross that particular segment. This has been published in Economic Times. The previous news were also published in Economic Times and various other newspapers. So you can update yourself around this, right? Now, if you like this initiative, do share some love on us through likes, comments, and shares, right? And we will quickly meet in 2 minutes time, within 2 minutes time, for the feature news discussion. And you got to join the other link immediately for that. Do share, subscribe, and like this page so that you're able to receive timely updates for upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.